Hey, besties. I feel like that's what I should start calling you guys because I need something to call you guys. But I think besties would be something cute. Alright, so today I'm doing a makeup tutorial for the girlies or for whoever come across this that want to do a cute little makeup look for the day, for the night, depending on what you're doing and where you're going. Sometimes you just want to look cute, you want to look nice, you want to do a little nice, neat, that girl energy type of makeup, whatever it is you want to call it, because we all have something different that we call things when it comes to our style and all of that. So, yeah, let's get right into it. But before we start, make sure the first thing you do before you start putting on any product or any makeup is moisturize your face. You are not about to put on some makeup with a dry face. No, ma'am, we're not doing that. And the tape on the edge of both of my eyes is to prevent fallouts for when I'm applying the eyeshadow. Because one thing I hate when it comes to eyeshadow is when I'm applying the eyeshadow on my eyelids and then the eyeshadow start falling. So the tape will prevent that from happening. So if you want to use the tape method, you can, or if you have some other kind of eye strips or whatever that you prefer to use for that, you could go with that too. Honestly, do what works for you. Do whatever you normally do as your routine. This is just what I do and what I've been doing for a while, and I'm going to continue to do that because that's what I know. So, yeah, let's get started. All right. So, I already moisturized my face. So, the next thing I have to do is start applying the product. You know, my to go to that I always use is the NYX Professional Makeup Bare With Me Concealer Serum because this is so good to use. I really have to buy more because I haven't got another one in a very long time. But this one is really, really good to use for if you have like a skin complexion that's similar to mine. Or maybe you're somebody that's a little darker, so you might go for a shade that's a little darker or lighter depending on your skin complexion. But I know this works for me, so I've been using this. And it's cute. I like it a lot. So I'm going to start with the foundation first and then do the concealer. But yeah, this do me very well every time, so that's why I always use it. It's Mocha, which is perfect for me. And then for the foundation, I always use my Fit Me Maybelline New York Matte Poreless foundation, and it lasts up to 12 hours, is what it says. Um, and it's also good for people who, have oily skin, depending on what your skin type is. This may not work for everybody, but I know it works for me. That's why I started using it. The foundation I used to use before I started using this one was not doing me well, so I stopped using that one and I started using this one. And this one's been doing me good ever since, so I just stick with this one. Once you find a product or find products that work for your skin complexion, your skin type, stick with that. Do not keep switching it to something different every time because it's going to get confusing and then you're not going to know which one is the right one to use. So once you find the right products to use for your makeup routine or for whatever kind of makeup or products it is that you're using, stick with that. That's one thing I've learned. Do not keep switching to different products every time. Do not keep testing out different products and stuff to use on your face because that's just not good. It's okay to test it out, try it, but be careful with that because some of this stuff can really irritate your skin. So you got to be very cautious. But this foundation is number 360 is Mocha Mocha. This shade do me the best out of all of them. I tried to use a shade that was lighter and I tried to use one that was darker, but it just did not go with my skin type. So I stick with this one because this one goes very well with my skin complexion. So I stick with that. And we're going to go right in with this foundation. But I'm going to try to make sure I use a little bit because recently I have been using too much. So I grab a beauty blender, beauty sponge. I grabbed this heart-shaped beauty sponge and I put a little bit of product on that. And I'm gonna start off with that. And I'm just gonna take it from there. So after I do that, I'm gonna grab this, dab the brush into it, and start putting it in the areas where I need it. If you need more, you can always add more. But like I said, it's always best to start off with a little bit of product first, because you really don't know how much you're going to need or not until you start off with a little bit first. And then once you start off with a little bit and you blend in that little bit, then you'll be able to tell if you need a little bit more or not. That's how I prefer to do it, so that way I don't add too much product or put too much on my face, because I've made that mistake a lot and I couldn't go back and fix it. So I try to be very careful. All right, now let's add some to the forehead and my nose as well. And then we're going to start blending. All right, now let me grab my Puff Beauty sponge and spray it with some setting spray. You do not need to use a lot of setting spray either when you spray it on your sponge. Just spray just a little bit. Do not overdo it. Please don't. Trust me. It's best that you hear it from me, because I have made that mistake a lot with makeup, is using too much of the products with stuff. Sometimes using a very little bit is all you really need. You don't need to always use a lot. So we're going to blend that in. Make sure I blend it in everywhere. You might have to go over some spots again. That's what I normally do. Like, the first time I put the product on my face, I blend it in, and then I go back and blend it in again. Alright, so I feel like I need a little bit more, so I'm going to add a little bit more to my forehead and right here. You also want to make sure you're using a little bit of product as well, especially when it comes to foundation and concealer and all that other stuff that you put on your face before you apply the eyeshadow and stuff. You want to make sure you're being very careful and cautious with that, and starting off with a little amount. You don't want to overdo it or go crazy with it, because you don't want to have that cakey look. And we all know a cakey makeup look. So, and you don't want that, because the cakey look really makes your makeup look terrible. So you have to be very careful of the amount of product that you're using and how much of it you're using. And you have to know how to use the right amount too. You can't be overdoing it or anything like that. Because when you use too much, your makeup just does not look, it doesn't look as good. And not just that, it's just not necessary to be overdoing it with the products. Because the truth of the matter is that you really don't need to be using a lot of product on your face when you do makeup. You really should just be using a little bit. And that's something that we all as makeup girlies and gurus have to learn how to do, is learn to use less product more often. I feel like sometimes we use too much product on our face, and then, you know, that's just not necessary all the time. You don't need to always use a bunch. A little bit is fine. You may think it's not enough, but it is enough. Okay, so let's continue to blend. And I did add a little bit more product because I felt like I needed a little bit more. But see, I only really add more when I feel like I actually need more. But if I feel like I don't need more, then I won't add no more. Okay. So I know after adding a little more just now, I know for sure this part that I'm blending in, I don't need no more product. And I don't need to add no more because it's fine the way it is. Sometimes you might think you need more, but you don't. And if something is telling you you need more product, ignore it because you don't. Because you're trying to prevent that cakey look. Always remember that the more product you put on your face, and if you're overdoing it, you're going to end up with that cakey look. The cakey look or either the made up look, where it's like you're just wearing too much product on your face. And you know what that leads to? A bunch of breakouts and blackheads. So that's not good. Makeup can cause a lot of acne if you are overdoing it or using the products too much or wearing too much of it on your face at one time. So that's why you gotta be careful with that. Know your limit and know how to use a certain amount. You don't have to always overdo it. And sometimes we can overdo it and not realize, because that do happen. There's times I would overdo it, but I'm trying to change that. All right, so as I said, and I'm going to stick to what I said, we don't need no more product. Now, the only time I probably would have to add a little bit more is when I go to add it under my eyes, but I'm probably going to use concealer for that part. I don't need to use the foundation for that. So for right now, we are done with the foundation. We're moving on to the next thing. The next thing will be the concealer, but I'm going to wait to do that after I apply the eyeshadow. Alright, so now let me grab one of my other brushes for the eyeshadow. I started off using this brush for applying the foundation because this brush is very flat, and the way the bristles are and the way the whole up here is put together, I like that it's like flat enough for me to just use it to dab the product in as well. Like if I don't want to always grab the beauty blender or the puff sponge to blend it, sometimes I'll use this. And it works, so yeah, I do that sometimes. So now we're going to go in with the eyeshadow. It was so hard for me to pick a color to use because this eyeshadow palette is so pretty with so many beautiful colors. And of course over here, they give you the instructions and directions on how to apply the eyeshadow. But I don't need that because I know how to do this. Alright, so this color was really standing out to me a lot. So I'm going to start off with that color. Yeah, that color was really standing out to me a lot. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to use that one. So I'm going to start off with that color as like a base color. And then after this color, I'm going to go in with another color. But the next color I'm going to go in with is more so like a purplish color. It's a very pretty purple shade though. I think I might have used it probably once or twice before, but it's been a while since I've used it from last time. So I figured I'll use it again for today for this makeup look. And if you have the same exact eyeshadow palette, this makeup look will probably be pretty easy for you to do because you know the exact colors I'm using. But if you don't, that's fine as well. Because sometimes we don't always have the same product. Sometimes we all use something different. We all have our own methods and strategies on how we do our makeup when it comes to makeup. So if you decide to do yours a little bit different from mine, or if yours turn out a little bit different from mine, that's okay. You don't have to follow all of my steps to be exact. But in order to do this look that I'm doing, you're going to have to. But don't think it's supposed to be perfect, or it's supposed to be exactly the way how I did mine, because it might not. It might turn out a little different. And if it do, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. All right, this shade is beautiful. It's very light, but I just like the way it looks on me, on my eyelids. I just like it. All right, so next we're gonna go in with this purple shade right here. Look how beautiful that purple is. It's very light. But once I put it with this color, no telling how it's gonna look. But I just feel like these two colors together is gonna look very cute. Okay. See how I'm going back and forth in between my crease, back and forth in that same motion. And I do that on both eyes. I feel like this purple is really, really light for the most part, because I barely can recognize it or notice it on my eyes, at least for right now. But it's a pretty purple though. It's just very light. But I'm okay with that, because I feel like if it was dark, then I would be saying that it's too dark. So I'm okay with it being a light purple. Okay. I'm starting to notice it now since I applied a little bit more. When I was starting off a little lightly, it was hard to tell. But now I definitely notice the color. Just making sure I'm blending it in good enough so that you can actually tell and see the difference between the two colors. All right. So next, we are going to grab one of our brushes that is like this. If you have a brush that's like this, or one that's a little smaller, that would be perfect. But it needs to be a smaller one. What you're going to do is spray the brush a little bit with your setting spray, or dab it into your bottle, however you prefer to do it. And the next thing we're going to do is, because you need to wet the brush a little bit in order to do the next thing we're about to do. The brush have to be wet, but don't make it too wet, but wet it just a little bit. And then we're going to dab it right into this shade right here. That's the shade I'm going in with, because that's going to go on my eyelids. And as you're dabbing the brush into the color, make sure you're brushing away or getting rid of those fallouts that be coming onto the brush, because you don't want that. But like I said, as long as I have the tape here, it'll be fine. All right, let me move closer so you guys can see. And now we're just going to start applying it onto my lids. This is beautiful. A very pretty shade. You always want to start off lightly before you add more, because like I said, you never know how much you're really going to need until you start off with a little bit first. You start off with a little bit first, and if you feel like you need to add more, then you add more. If not, then don't. But you don't want to overdo it though, because sometimes you really don't need to add a lot of eyeshadow. Sometimes all you need is just a little bit. And that's exactly what I'm doing with this eye. I'm just adding just a little bit of this color to it. That's all you really need. See how clean that looks? See how neatly that looks? That's why it's important to have something at the edge of your eye to use as like a secure thing, so that way it helps keep that clean cut at the edge. Otherwise, if you don't have anything there to, like if you don't have anything right here or at the edge of your eye period to like help create that cut at the edge, then your makeup is not, your eyeshadow is not going to look that neat. It's not. This method really helps it to look neat, trust me. Once you start using this method and your eyeshadow starts looking very neat and very clean looking, you're going to thank me later, but it is going to help your makeup to look very neat. Otherwise, if you don't use this method or you don't use something at the edge of your eyes to prevent the fallouts from the eyeshadow falling onto the other parts of your face or your lower part of your face, then you're going to have the eyeshadow all under your eye and stuff, and that's not how it's supposed to be. So in order for it to look neat and to look like you applied it properly, you need to go with this method because this will do you best, trust me. Alright, next we're going to do the other eye. And I started to see the fallouts already, but as long as I have the tape here, it'll be fine. It's a very beautiful shade. I don't know if I ever used it. I want to say I did, but I don't recall ever using it. But it's very pretty though. And I only say you don't really need a lot of it because the eyeshadow color and shade itself that I'm applying right now is already pigmented enough, and just by having all the pigment and the sparkle and everything in it, that makes it pop out as is anyway, so it can show out for itself on its own. Like you don't need to substitute it or anything with another color to make it pop, because it can pop and show out on its own. So you really don't need to add too much of it onto your eyes because of all the pigment and everything I have in it. And usually when I use colors that are pigmented or that has a lot of sparkle and shimmer in it, I try not to use too much of it because there's no reason to. It'll be different if it was a color that you were trying to make pop out more, then that would make sense. That would make more sense to use a little bit more of the color. But if it's something like this, you don't really need to use a lot. You really don't. And it's important to know that and understand that. Using less product more often is really what we have to do more often. And like I said, that can be hard sometimes, even though you may feel like, you don't have enough on, or you should have added more, or you should have put more on, but this is really all you need and you'll be fine. You may not think that, but once you actually look at how the whole look and everything is put together, you'll be like, you know what, I didn't need a lot. The amount I was using was just fine. That was good enough. And a lot of the time it is good enough to use just that amount. You don't need to overdo it. Alright, so we are done with the eyeshadow. Now we can remove the tape if you did use tape, because like I said, everybody have their own method that they use. Everybody probably don't use tape. And what we're going to do is go back in with the brush that we was using from the very beginning, which was this one that I was using as the flat brush, because I like that it's flat and it's easier to just pat it down and make sure it's blended in certain spots. We're going to dab the brush into the same product I was using from before I added the eyeshadow and everything, and we're just going to fill in the area where the tape was at. Alrighty. For the most part, I think it looks pretty good. Like, if you really want a clean look, you gotta make sure you're being very careful with the amount of product that you're using. And if you want to add it to other parts of your face, you can. This is just extra that I'm using. Not that I needed it. Alrighty. I feel like my forehead do. Okay. Sometimes it'd be certain spots that I notice and I'd be like, okay, it needs a little bit more, but for the most part, it's pretty good. Alright. Next I gotta do. Alright, that looks pretty good. I hate when the product get on my lip. I can't stand that with a passion. Alright. Next, I need to go in with the highlight. Because if I don't go ahead and do it, I'm going to forget about it. And I hate forgetting about highlight. I got to go in with my to-go-to highlight palette. The NOX Goddess Highlighter Kit. You guys have to see these highlights for yourself. Look how beautiful they are. Look how pigmented they are. Come on. Alright. I'm going to use, and I like it because they have names. Each of the highlighters have names. Which makes it even cute. Makes it even more cute. Alright, I'm going to go in with this one. That's the one I want to use. And I'm putting it on the bridge of my nose, the tip of my nose, my chin. And then, can't forget our cheeks. Alright. Now we're going to grab another brush to use as the brush to do the blending for the highlight. Remember what I said before in my other makeup tutorials? I always say that you brush it off very lightly. You don't have to force it or anything because it will eventually blend itself in. But you do want to make sure you blend it in enough to where it's actually blended in. But just be very light with it. Don't do it too rough or anything. And the brush actually feels nice on my face because the bristles are very soft. I love a soft brush. I don't like when the brushes have bristles that are too hard. My face have very bad irritations to brushes like that. So a soft brush is always better for me to use. And now blend the other side. This highlight is beautiful. Very beautiful. Very cute. Now I'm blending in the tip. Now let's get the bridge of my nose. So cute. The color I have on my eyelids and then the color of the highlight I use look very similar, but they're not the same color though. But they almost look like they're the same shade. Alright, so I finished that. Now let me go in with my mascara. I'm using the Maybelline New York, the Glossier Pumped Up. Yep. So low, pumped up. All right. I don't know if I should add wing liner with this look. I really don't know. I don't feel like I need to. I feel like it's fine just the way it is. Okay, I put mascara at the top and the bottom, so we're good. This is the lip liner I'm using. This is a very, very nice color. Lasting Brown is what it's called. I love it. I've been using it ever since I first got it. I found it at Walmart. I was trying to search for the one that I originally had, but I couldn't find it. So I just said, I'll use this one as a substitute. And I turned out to like this one. That's even better. Alright. Something else I like to do when it comes to using lip liner and like lip gloss together. Sometimes I like using a brush to squirt the lip gloss on instead of using this part of it, because when I use this part of it, it gets mixed in with other stuff and I don't want that. So I just squirt out a little bit, or sometimes a lot, it really depends. And I use that to apply to my lips. For me, I use a lot of lip gloss because I love lip gloss. I'm a big lip gloss guru. I don't like lipstick. I never was a fan of lipstick, so I prefer lip gloss most of the time. This smells so good. I like these lip glosses because they smell good, and I just feel like these are perfect to use when it comes to lip liner. I don't really like using no other lip gloss when it comes to lip liner. These are better to use. So that's done. My lips are done. The last thing to do would be the liquid liner. I'm going to use my Wet n Wild one, the break proof waterproof liquid eyeliner. This one is really, really good. It's ultra black. It is just top tier. I love this one. You can't tell me this makeup is not eating. Alright, and I'm going to do it differently from how I did the other one. Alrighty. Okay. I did it halfway. Almost poked myself in the eye. We can drag it out more at the edge. So cute. Alright, we are done. Let me know what you guys think about this makeup look. I love it. I think it's beautiful and it's very cute. Alright. With that being said, catch you guys in the next one, and thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.